Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done on earth
thy will be done on earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord,
For he is good.
for he is good,
For his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel,
For he is good.
for he is good,
For his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
The Lord of lords,
Lord of lords,
the King of kings,
King of kings,
the mighty one of Jacob,
the mighty one of Jacob,
and there is no other.
and there is no other.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Today's scripture reading comes from Isaiah 5, verses 3 through 7. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What can have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes? And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the heads thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold, oppression, for righteousness, but behold, a cry. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading and hearing and doing of his word. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all have a seat. We got a selection.
What's incomprehensible, even to the point of time. Jesus, your love is high. Your love, the highest high. Father, your love, no one can compare to the love that you shed, Lord. Can I explain your love that remains? It endures what's incomprehensible, even to the point of dying. Show me your love, Lord.
Check, check. All right, let's give him another round of applause, please. Praise the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peace to everybody out there. Do me a favor, turn me down, man. I got a little Wizard of Oz going on right now. Today's the Sabbath of the Most High God. Typically, with my teaching, I do 3 disclaimers. One is the multiple response strategy. Well, that's not a disclaimer, that's a multiple response strategy. I do a Sabbath disclaimer, and I do a teaching style disclaimer. So, let's go ahead and get with it. Today is the Sabbath of the Most High God, not of the Jews, not a font, of God. It is a 24-hour period from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, right? Certain things you can do on this day, certain things you can't do on this day. So we're going to go with the things you can do, right? First, the good stuff. On this day, you are, speaking of that, it's at night, right? When it's dark. Nehemiah will tell you that, all right? There's a lot of people that want to argue over, is it red or is it orange? No, it's black, dark. Nehemiah will tell you that, all right? That being said, on this day, we are supposed to have a holy convocation. In other words, a holy gathering where we come to learn about God. And the end result of that is to learn to be, literally to be raised up by God, hopefully for the first resurrection and not after that, and be put in his family, the God family. That's why we're here, right? On this day, we have a holy gathering, a holy meeting, right? We're supposed to comfort one another on this day, right? We're supposed to speak the words of God, right? And encouraging words, right? On this day, we are to love one another, okay? And we're supposed to rejoice before the Lord. So all these old sad faces I see in the crowd, come on, y'all. It's the Sabbath. You can turn your bills off, all right? You can't worry about your bills right now anyway. That being said, multiple response strategies, okay? Oh, wait. Things you can't do. All right, so on the Sabbath, we are not supposed to cook or kindle a fire or use a microwave, because using a microwave is boiling. The scientific principle of a microwave is intermolecular friction, and we are not to boil or sieve, according to the Bible. All right? If you smoke, don't smoke, because that's kindling a fire. Do not buy or sell. Do not transact commerce. All right? So don't leave here and go to church's chicken. All right? You ain't supposed to do that. Okay? What else we're not supposed to do? We're not supposed to speak our own words. We're not supposed to bring our drama from out there in here. That is what we're not supposed to do. All right? Did I miss anything that we're not supposed to do? Try it. Take it easy, man. All right. Peace to you. All right. Segue. Multiple response strategies. I don't like talking to the floor or cameras. I like looking and making eye contact with people because I want to make sure that y'all get it. Else, why am I here during a lesson that you guys don't get? Okay? So, if you guys understand the concept and it's resonating, here's what I want you to do. People that know the game, show the people that don't know the game what's up. If you understand the concept, this is what you do. Okay, if you don't want to put it up that high, you can put it up that high. Like, I get it. I mean, I'm with you, right? And then I'm going to be with you like Mark used to say. I'm right there with you, all right? If you don't understand the concept, what do? Dude, I don't know what you're talking about right now, okay? And if you're like, again, if you don't want to put it up that high, you can, is that cool? I don't get it. You can do that, all right? And if you kind of get the concept a little bit, what do? Thumb to the side, like you're trying to hitchhike and get there, right? And I will elaborate on it, okay? My whole thing is I like making a connection with you guys. I'm not up here just to hear myself pontificate, because me talking is not important to me or you. The Word of God is what's important, right? That being said, I am not your great-grandfather or grandmother's preacher, teacher, whatever. I'm not Mr. Rogers, even though he's a cool dude. I'm not Mr. Rogers, right? My communication style is a little different. I'm from the streets of Chicago, right? So, that being said, I might use a pop culture reference. I might use a lyric from a song. I might use a movie line, right? And it's all to drive the point home. It's a mnemonic device. I might use a word like erudite, right? And then I might say something like for shizzle, right? The broad spectrum. That's my communication style. I don't want you to be put off by it, all right? It's just so you can understand and I can understand. You guys, we can understand each other, right? Where we all are, okay? I think that covers everything. Yeah. All right. Now, the lesson. The psychosis from the curses, part 2, the cost of disobedience. And the reality is, in the echo chamber right now, which is the voice of the construct. Mute my phone. In the voice of the construct right now, there's a lot of people trying to disparage us bringing up the treatment that we experience. When I say we, I mean Israel. I mean quote unquote black people. There's people like Ben Shapiro. There's people like Jordan Peterson and their proselytes. And their whole argument is, oh, slavery was 155 years ago. Get over it. Pick yourself up. And they want to impute these things against us. That's what made me do the series, right? This is number 2 of the series. The first series, I dealt with the mindset of being chattel property and what that means. What we carry with us from being chattel property for 245 years. There's a mindset. Now, this lesson is talking about how much we lost as a nation because we didn't listen to our God. Not the white man, but our God. And I'm equipping you with the information. In other words, numbers, facts, and figures to have an intelligent conversation outside of the Bible. Because I'm here to tell you, the racist intellectuals could care less about the Bible. So you have to deal with the racist intellectuals in reality, right? Then you can take them in the Bible to substantiate that. That's what this lesson is for. It's not to get mad at the white man. It is to equip you to have an intelligent conversation with people that ascribe things to our nation that they have no idea what it's like to be us, and to show us what we lost as a nation for being disobedient to our God. We savvy. Y'all understand what the purpose of this lesson is? Yes, sir. That being said, without further ado, let's do it. Daniel 9. Daniel 9. And I'm sorry for being late. And I got a lot of ground to cover, and if I'm going a little too fast, just let me know. Okay. Daniel 9. Daniel 9. One verse. I always like to set the tone. I'm going to show you the God we serve. Daniel 9, verse 4. Go ahead, bro.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keep the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments.
And if we obey his commandments, this is what he promised to us. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. We serve a great and dreadful God. Our God is not a powder puff hippie dude with sandals on. Our God is an angry black person. Y'all think I'm joking. Read his description, right? I'm not talking about American Jesus. I'm talking about historically accurate Jesus. You know, the guy we can read about in the Bible. You know, feet of bronze. That guy. Hair like lamb's wool. That part. And don't nobody want to get a black man angry. Especially with indescribable powers. So this God that we serve said, if you serve me and do what I say according to my commandments, this is what you'll get. Deuteronomy 28, we're going to go 1 through 3 and we're going to dance. Go ahead, my brother.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Stop. He didn't say you're going to get this automatically off top. It's an if. It's a condition. If you do what I say, then I'm going to do this. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Verse 3.
Come on.
Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field.
Skip down to verse 6. Verse 6. Go ahead, bro.
Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
I'm going to show you when we came out of Egypt how blessed we were. Let's go to Exodus 3. He said we're going to be blessed when we come out. Let me show you the foundation of our wealth. Now I want y'all to remember this. We're talking BC era. Okay? BC era. This is what we were dealing with in the BC era. When we came out of Egypt, we were blessed with unimaginable goods. Unimaginable. Let me show you the foundation for the tent of God. Exodus 3, we're going 21 through 22. Exodus 3, 21 through 22. Go ahead, my brother.
And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And it shall come to pass that when ye go, ye shall not go empty. But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor, and of her that sojourneth in her house, jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment.
Stop. How do you borrow jewels, right? Hey, let me get that tiara. When he says borrow, he don't mean you got to give it back. He's like, let me get that up off you, homie. Debo's tiara right now. Y'all understanding that concept? Go ahead, my brother.
And ye shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians.
He said, blessed when you go in and blessed when you come out. Exodus 12. Maybe that was a fluke. Blessed when you come out. Exodus 12. Exodus 12. The Lord's going to pay you back. He's going to pay you for what you do, whether it's good or bad. In this instance, we got a good payment. 400 years worth, all in one day. Exodus 12, we're going 35 through 36. Exodus 12, 35 through 36. Go ahead, my brother.
And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. And they spoiled the Egyptians.
I want you to glean out of that the Lord gave them favor. Just like the Lord that we serve right now can still give you favor. Yes, the key of David is not a game. But let me show you the plausibility. Because I know some people will be like, oh, the Bible's a fairy tale. That doesn't exist. That's not true. Well, let me show you, if we came out of Egypt, which I believe we did, I'm going to show you a metric by which we can apply to find out if our wealth, if it was plausible that we had that much wealth. I'm going to show you Tutankhamun's tomb. I'm going to show you how much gold and jewels was in one man's tomb. Okay. And I want you to imagine, if this is in one man's tomb, what did Egypt have in totality? Go ahead, sir. You have the start and stops.
Untouched treasure. In November 1922.
It comes from Facts on Tutankhamun's tomb. Go ahead, sir.
In November 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered the tomb along with its treasure of more than 5,000 objects, many in solid gold. The tomb was nearly intact, and it took Carter 6 years to excavate, with funding from Britain's Lord George Carnarvon.
Stop. 5,000 objects, solid gold. Y'all understand? Okay. One man's tomb. Go ahead, sir.
The treasure was laid out in 5 rooms that included thrones, statues, furniture, and arms.
Come on.
The walls of the chamber in which Tutankhamun lay were covered in gold.
Stop. Walls in a tomb covered in gold. 5,000 objects in this man's tomb, solid gold. This is a king. This is one man's tomb. Imagine the wealth that was in Egypt. If you study anything about Egypt, you know one thing. You know the Valley of the Kings. There's a lot of wealth that was found. So it's very plausible that when we came out of Egypt, we had unimaginable wealth. Go ahead, sir.
In his coffin was a 3-piece sarcophagus, of which the outermost was in red quartzite, and the innermost was 110 kilograms, which is 240 pounds of solid gold.
What kind of gold?
Solid gold.
240 pounds. His coffin was 240 pounds of gold, with gold walls surrounding it, with 5,000 objects that are all gold. One man's tomb. So when the Lord's like, y'all can borrow the Egyptians all this stuff, I just want you to just know it's very plausible. Go ahead, sir.
The pharaoh who died in 1324 BC at the age of 19 had a funeral mask that was also made from gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli. Its eyes were made of obsidian and quartz. The mask has become one of the world's most widely recognized Egyptian artifacts. It took Carter 10 years to complete his exploration.
How many years?
10 years.
10 years to search 5 rooms to find 5,000 objects of solid gold. It took 10 years to find all the stuff. Y'all ain't hearing me. Y'all act like y'all got that at the house. Go ahead, man.
10 years to complete his exploration of the tomb and catalog the thousands of objects that he found.
Come on, man. Let's get back to the book. I'm going to show you the tabernacle of the congregation in which all of the instruments, including the walls, were gold. This is what we were doing for our God back in the BC era. Let's go to Exodus 25. So it's quite plausible that we came out of Egypt with unimaginable wealth. If we just base it on what they found in Tutankhamun's tomb. I didn't even get into Ramses the first, the second, the third, and the fifth, and the 12th, and whatever. Exodus 25. We're going 1 through 3, and we're going to dance with the stars. This is what we was doing for our God in the desert. Y'all ain't hearing me. Exodus 25, 1 through 3, and we're going to dance. I got you, bro. Exodus 25, 1 through 3. Go ahead, brother.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart. Ye shall take my offering.
Glean willingly. Go ahead, sir.
And this is the offering which ye shall take of them, gold and silver and brass.
Skip down to verse 10. Go ahead, brother.
And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold.
What kind of gold?
Pure gold.
Come on.
Within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about.
Skip down to verse 13. Go ahead, brother.
And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold.
Skip down to verse 17. Go ahead, brother.
And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof.
Stop. Understand the mercy seat is God's throne on the earth. So of course his throne is going to be in gold, sitting on a gold box, surrounded in a room with gold walls. This is how we was doing it for our God, man. Y'all ain't hearing me. We supposed to be the caretakers of the world. Go ahead, sir.
23.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt also make
No, verse 18, sir. Verse 18. Go ahead.
And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, in the 2 ends of the mercy seat.
Skip down to verse 23. Go ahead, sir.
Thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about.
Skip down to verse 29. I'm showing you the gold. I ain't got to show you nothing else but the gold. Go ahead, brother.
And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and spoons thereof.
Stop. We talking about dishes. Now let's see if the dishes deviates from the plan. Go ahead, sir.
And spoons thereof, and covers thereof, and bowls thereof, to cover withal, of pure gold shalt thou make them.
Come on.
And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always.
Which is the bread of life and the children of Israel. Travis covered that. Go ahead, sir.
31.
Come on.
And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same.
Skip down to verse 36. Go ahead, sir.
Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. And all it shall be one beaten work of pure gold.
Come on.
And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it.
Representing the 7 angels. We all know that. Travis covered it. Go ahead, sir.
And the tongs thereof, and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold.
Come on.
Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all the vessels.
Stop. A talent is 75 pounds. What did y'all glean out of that?
Pure gold.
That's
Pure
what
gold.
I'm talking about. If you didn't glean nothing else, y'all glean gold, right? And where do we get that gold from?
Egypt.
And one man's tomb had 5,000 objects of gold. It's very plausible. The Bible's not a fairy tale. What I like to do is bring it from those pages to outside in the real world. We can touch it. Right. That way you can have an intelligent conversation with someone. Because naturally they assume just because we're Christians and we're Bible thumpers that we're stupid. We're not stupid. Y'all with me on that? Let's go to Exodus 26. I'm going to show you what the walls of the tent look like. Exodus 26. We're going 26 through 32. I'm a Bible realist and a pragmatist. That's what I am. Exodus 26 through 32. I'm going to equip everybody that listens to this lesson to be able to have an intelligent conversation with facts and figures and numbers unemotionally. Because the minute you start discussing how we were treated and you get emotional, they relegate you to stupid. And they stop listening and they tune out. That is unforgivable. Exodus 26. We're going 26 to 32. Go ahead, my brother.
And thou shalt make bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and the 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the 2 sides westward. And the middle bar in the midst of the board shall reach from end to end. And thou shalt overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars. And thou shalt overlay the bars with gold.
Come on.
And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was showed thee in the mount.
Stop. The tabernacle on the earth represents the throne room of God in the third heaven. So of course it has to be beautiful and full of splendor. That's the God we serve. And we are his children. But the cost of disobedience is what everybody in this room is going to know about. Go ahead, sir. 31.
And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen.
Okay, twine linen.
Fine.
Bargain basement linen.
And fine twined linen.
Come on.
Of cunning work. With cherubim shall it be made.
Wait, you talking about the veil is linen when it has embroidered angels in it?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Go ahead, sir.
32.
Come on.
And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood overlaid with gold.
Brass.
With gold.
Lead.
Gold.
Tin.
Solid gold.
Come on.
Their hooks shall be of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver.
We got gold and silver. Now, I'm going to show you how much the tabernacle of the congregation costs in today's money.
Okay.
Go to the handout. This is how much, if we adjust for inflation and bring it from 3746 BC to 2019. Adjusted for inflation. Brother Andrew, praise the Lord for Brother Andrew. Best teachers money can't buy, right? In his lesson, We Were Kings, this is where I gathered the information from the tabernacle and Solomon's temple. That laid the foundation. I give credit where credit is due.
Right.
Best teachers money can't buy. His research. I got this information from the same place, didn't have to change nothing. Go ahead, sir. Tell me where it came from.
The source is templemount.org. The tabernacle of the congregation. The materials assembled for the tabernacle are described in detail in Exodus 35 through 38 and summarized in Exodus 38 verses 21 through 30. The total quantity of gold collected was approximately 1 ton of silver.
Stop. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. Go ahead, sir.
3 3/4 tons, and of bronze 2.5 tons. At today's price, gold is approximately $500 per troy ounce,
That was back then. Now it's 1,500 and some change now. Go ahead, sir.
or $6,000 per pound, or 12 million per ton. Silver currently is priced around $12 per troy ounce,
It's $15, $50 now. Go ahead, sir.
or $144 per pound, which is $288,000 per ton. Hence, the gold and silver used in Tabernacle of Moses would be worth over $13 million today.
That was in 97. Go ahead, sir.
Exodus 12:35 states that the Jews were given gold, silver, and ornaments by the Egyptians at the time of the departure from Egypt. The golden lampstand in the tabernacle weighed a talent and would today be worth $500,000 for its gold alone.
That was back in 97. Go ahead, bro.
A replica of this menorah is now being crafted at the Temple Institute in Jerusalem. That was 22 years ago in $1997. In 2019 money, we're talking $33 million.
$33 million in the desert 3,746 years ago. That's what we was doing for our God.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm going to ask you, Does anybody have any of that money today in their pockets in this room?
No.
That's our inheritance. Y'all don't understand what the cost of being disobedient to God is. Instead of mobbing around with money to spare, we're trying to figure out how to pay our bills. Shouldn't be that way. We should be the caretakers of the world. Not, I'm balling other nations, no, caretakers of the world. We're supposed to have all the solutions and all of the resources. That is what we were made to do. That's the deal we struck. Y'all with me on that? Now, I'm going to show you how the priest of God was mobbing around in a $33 million tabernacle in the desert. This is going to trip you out. Exodus 39.
Come on now.
Exodus 39.
Great job.
Praise the Most High. Show you how we're supposed to be doing it. How we doing it now? It's not even close to how we're supposed to be doing it. And the reason why is because we was disobedient. And the Lord's like, you want to trip? Fine. You'll serve your enemies in poverty, naked, with a yoke of iron around your neck. That's what you want to do. You don't want a ball. You want to be a servant. You don't want to serve me. You want to be a servant. Y'all ain't hearing me. Let me show you how our forefathers, the priest, was belling around in a $33 million portable tent in the middle of the desert. Exodus 39, we're going 1 through 4, we're going to dance, brother. Go ahead.
And of the blue and purple and scarlet, they made clothes of service to do the service in the holy place, and made the holy garments for Aaron, as the Lord commanded Moses.
Come on.
And he made the ephod of gold, blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen. And they did beat the gold into place and cut it into wires to work it in the blue and in the purple and in the scarlet and in the fine linen with cunning work.
Please read 3 again. They ain't understanding.
And they did beat the gold into thin plates.
Stop. They took some gold, beat it into plates that was thin, clipped it, and made threads out of gold to lace their clothes. So you standing before God with gold threads surrounded by gold and diamonds. Y'all ain't hearing me, man. Y'all ain't hearing me. Go ahead, brother. Verse 4, go ahead.
They made shoulder pieces for it.
Wait, they made what now?
Shoulder pieces.
Come on. Go ahead, brother.
To couple it together. By the 2 edges was it coupled together. And the curious girdle of his ephod that was upon it was of the same, according to the work thereof, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they wrought onyx.
Skip down to verse 8. Verse 8, I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
And he made the breastplate of cunning work, like the work of ephod, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen.
So we got shoulder pieces and we got a breastplate. Like bulletproof body armor, blinged out. Go ahead, sir.
9. It was 4 square. They made the breastplate double. A span was the length thereof, and a span the breadth thereof, being double.
Come on.
And they set it in 4 rows of stones. The first row was of sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This was the first row.
Come on.
And the second row, an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst.
Stop. And we wonder why rappers go out and buy chains with gigantic T-Pain sized pendants on it, right?
Right? That's right.
Yeah.
Read the Bible lately? Go ahead, brother.
12.
Come on.
13, I'm sorry. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and jasper. They were enclosed in ouches of gold in their enclosing.
Ounces of settings. Go ahead, sir.
And the stones were according to the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engraving of a signet, every one with his name according to the 12 tribes. And they made upon the breastplates chains at the ends of wreathen work of pure gold.
So we got a breastplate that's gold with jewels on it, with gold chains connected to gold chains with gold football pads on it. Y'all understand what we looking at or what we reading about? This sounds insane to me, but fly at the same time. I like this. Go ahead, ahead, my brother.
16.
Come on.
And they made 2 ouches of gold and 2 gold rings, and put the 2 rings in the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. And the 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains they fastened in the 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it.
Stop. Cats walking around looking like wrestlers, man. like, can you imagine this? Can you imagine if you was another nation and you caught a glimpse of some dude coming out the tabernacle of God wearing this in broad daylight, just blinged out? You'd be like, what is going on over there? Right?
Right.
The Lord told us to do this. This isn't something we just came up with. The Lord gave specific instructions for specific reasons. We're supposed to want to draw people to us by our flyness. Y'all ain't hearing me. Go ahead, my brother.
19.
Come on.
And they made 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, upon the border of it, which was on the side of the ephod inward.
Let me ask y'all a question. Was we blessed?
Yes.
Yes.
Y'all just like, yes? No.
Yeah.
Was we blessed?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Abundantly.
Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. Remember, blessed when you come in, blessed when you come out. Blessed to the point where your pastors is walking around with football pads made out of gold. Y'all ain't hearing me, man. Come on, man. What is on God's mind? Man. Overtake you. Overtake you. Y'all ain't hearing me, man. This is how we supposed to be. Y'all ain't hearing me. Look, I know we've been down so long, we can't even fathom it. But if we believe this book is real, Deuteronomy 28. Back to these blessings.
Yes, sir.
We get so caught up on the curses, we forget about the football pads. Deuteronomy 28, we going 8, we going 11. I got you, bro. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all that thou settest thine hand unto.
Just some of the stuff I set my hand to do.
All that thou settest thine hand unto.
Come on.
And he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
Skip down to verse 11. Go ahead, brother.
And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee.
Let's see if this is real. Right? God, one of God's names is Israel. Let's see if this is real. If he was talking about being plenteous in goods, it's a fairy tale. Let's go to 1 Kings 6.
Come on.
1 Kings chapter 6. Y'all gonna understand what we lost. This lesson hurts my feelings every time I look at it, go through it, and do it. It's the second time I'm doing it, and it hurts my feelings. Because when I see my people, and when I see the people close to me, not to mention the people just outside these walls, and I see the condition that we in, because of our disobedience, right? It hurts me.
That is right. That is right.
I often wish I could save everyone, but I'm a dreamer. 1 Kings 6. 1 Kings 6. Yeah, that was Scarface.
Yes, sir.
1 Kings 6. We're going to start at verse 1 and we're going to dance. 1 Kings 6, verse 1, and we're going to dance. Go ahead, bro.
And it came to pass in the 480th year, after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziph, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of the Lord.
What I want you to glean out of that is we still had bread. We still had it. We ain't blew it. We still had it.
Right.
Skip down to verse 20. Go ahead, brother.
And the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length, and 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits in the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and so covered the altar which was of cedar.
Come on.
So Solomon overlaid the house within with pure gold.
Stop. Read that again, man. They ain't hearing me.
So Solomon overlaid the house within with pure gold.
What does within mean?
Inside.
On the inside. He overlaid the entire inside of the temple in gold.
Pure gold.
So we're clear.
Go ahead, my brother.
And he made a partition by the chains of gold before the oracle, and he overlaid it with gold. And the whole house he overlaid with gold, until he had finished all the house. Also, the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold.
Read 22 again. Y'all ain't hearing me.
And the whole house he overlaid with gold.
Stop. We already know he overlaid the entire inside in gold. What did he do on the outside?
Gold.
Gold. A gold temple. Can you imagine when people come to Jerusalem? I know they was probably like man. Go ahead, my brother. I'll get caught up. Go ahead.
Until he had finished all the house, also the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold. And within the oracle he made 2 cherubims of olive tree, each 10 cubits high.
Skip to 28.
And he overlaid the cherubims with gold.
Come on.
And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and without.
Come on.
And the floor of the house he overlaid with gold.
Stop.
Walking on gold.
Are y'all understanding what we just read?
Yes.
The magnitude.
So when God says New Jerusalem has what?
Streets of gold.
That's what this was representing. Y'all ain't hearing me. Y'all ain't getting me. Go ahead, my brother.
30. And the floor of the house he overlaid with gold within and without.
Skip down to verse 32. Go ahead, sir.
The 2 doors also were of olive tree. And he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees.
Skip down to verse 37, sir. Go ahead.
In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the Lord laid in the month Zib. And in the 11th year, in the month Bul, which is the 8th month, was the house finished throughout all the parts thereof, and according to all the fashion of it. So was he 7 years in building it.
So we got a gold temple with gold floors. The inside is gold. And the tabernacle of the congregation is also inside there. The components of that is in there also in the treasury. Let's go to 1 Kings 7. Do you understand what we lost so far?
No, not.
Nothing.
We lost
We lost
everything.
everything.
Yeah, we lost everything.
Yes.
Thank God our God is merciful enough to keep reaching out to us. Or should I say, thank God for Abraham.
Right.
It ain't us. It's the covenant of Abraham. Other than that, who knows what we'd be. 1 Kings 7, we're going 48 through 51. 1 Kings 7, 48 through 51. Praise the Lord, we serve a God that is not bound by time, that does not change his mind according to how he feels in the moment.
Right.
Y'all feel me on that one? God is not like unto man. Oof. 1 Kings 7, 48 through 51. Go ahead, my brother.
And Solomon made all the vessels that pertained unto the house of the Lord, the altar of gold, and the table of gold, whereupon the showbread was.
Come on.
And the candlesticks of pure gold.
Plural candlesticks, not just one. Go ahead, sir.
And the candlesticks of pure gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left, before the oracle, with the flowers and the lamps and the tongs of gold.
Come on.
And the bowls and the snuffers and the basins and the spoons.
There goes them spoons again. Go ahead.
And the censers of pure gold. And the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house, the most holy place, and for the doors of the house, to wit, of the temple.
Stop. When they say it's off the hinges, off the hinges. The hinges are gold. Go ahead, brother.
51. So was ended all the work that King Solomon made for the house of the Lord. And the Solomon brought in the things which David his father had dedicated, even the silver and the gold and the vessels did he put among the treasures of the house of the Lord.
When the Lord said he was going to make us plenteous in goods in the land, did he not accomplish that goal?
He's accomplished it.
Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. We still in the blessings.
Praise God.
We still in the blessings. Deuteronomy 28. Sometimes we forget the blessings is like, what, 1 through 15? We just go directly into, and thus saith the Lord, your life will suck. Like, wait, what about the good part? gonna jump to that? Man. Deuteronomy 28. We still in the blessings for obedience. Deuteronomy 28. We're going 12 through 13. Deuteronomy 28, 12 through 13. Go ahead, my brother.
The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto the land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand.
Some of the work.
All the work of thine hand.
Come on.
And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow.
Stop. If there's a gold temple with gold floors, then that means we have an overabundance of resources to be able to create such a national monument. Meaning we have leftover money, leftover resources, to the point that we're supposed to be the one everyone comes to lend and to borrow from.
Right.
Go ahead, sir. Verse 13.
And the Lord shall make thee the head, and not the tail.
Possibly the tail.
Not the tail.
Well, maybe the tail.
Not the tail.
Come on.
And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them.
Please read 13 again. The end part of that just said, whatever you feel like doing, God is cool because God understands that you're a human being and you make mistakes and he don't really care because he loves you regardless and saved you in spite of yourself.
No.
That's what that just said, right?
No.
Or was that a Sunday flashback?
Sunday flies
A
back.
Sunday flashback, sorry. I thought I was in Sunday church for a second. Read verse 13 one more time. Go ahead, brother.
And the Lord shall make thee the head, and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them.
Were we supposed to have everything?
Yes.
Let's go to 1 Kings. I'm going to show you the level that we were supposed to be at. 1 Kings 9, chapter 9. I am going to show you the level because the king is the example of how the subjects are supposed to be. So how the king moves, his nation is supposed to have the ability to kind of move in that same vein or move similar to that. If the king is just and fair. We ain't talking about, the king of France and let them eat cake. We ain't talking about that. We talking about Solomon, who even the dudes cleaning the toilets was happy. That's what we're talking about. This is where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be balling like this. 1 Kings 9. We're going 10 through 14, and I got you, bro. 1 Kings 9, 10 through 14. Go ahead.
And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees and with gold, according to all his desire. That then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee.
Read 11 again. They ain't hearing you.
Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees and with gold, according to all his desire.
Stop. Glean out of that. When the Lord bless you, he overly blesses you. Hiram didn't put a price on nothing. Hiram was just like, whatever you got, my dude, you got. And as the end result of that, because we were supposed to be balling like, go ahead, bro, just finish it. Just finish it.
That then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee.
He gave him 20 cities. I know it's hard to fathom the ability to be able to give anybody $500 and not need it. Let alone a city.
Right.
But I'm talking about our king gave Hiram, right? 20 cities on GP. Give them those cities right there. Y'all ain't hearing me. That is incredible. When the Lord said, I will make you plenteous in goods in the land, he's like, man, look, these blessings going to overtake you. The blessings fall out of your pocket and hit somebody else. Verse 12, brother.
And Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not.
Don't ask me what them cities was like. Might have been Cabrini Green. I don't know. It might have been Compton. I don't know what's going on. But the point is, we talking 26. Y'all feel me on that? The ability to chunk off 20 cities and not even trip. Go ahead, sir.
13.
Come on.
And he said, what cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother? And he called them the land of Kabul unto this day.
Land of Kabul. Sounds scary. Don't get off the freeway when you're going to Kabul. Go ahead, my brother.
14. And Hiram sent to the king six score talents of gold.
That's $165 million. Skip down to verse 20. Go ahead, brother.
And all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service unto this day.
So they got to pay a tax. So that income is coming in. Go ahead, sir.
22.
Come on.
But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen.
No slaves of the children of Israel. No tax from the children of Israel because you got it cracking so much. An overabundance of things. Go ahead, sir.
But they were men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and rulers of his chariots, and his horsemen.
Skip down to verse 26, sir. Go ahead.
And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of Red Sea, and in the land of Edom.
Come on.
And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold.
Fetch silver?
Gold.
10.
Gold.
Go ahead.
420 talents. Whoa. And brought it to King Solomon.
Stop. $782 million. $782 million to go with the already rich coffers. Like, this is unnecessary bread. Like, I don't even say unnecessary money. Like, everybody in here know every dime we need, right?
Right.
Imagine having so much bread, you're like, all right, well, just put it over there. $782 million. Let's go directly into 1 Kings 10. 1 Kings 10. We're going 14 through 25. 1 Kings 10, 14 through 25. Are we understanding what we lost as a nation? To go from this to trying to figure out how to pay whatever. We shouldn't be trying to figure out how to pay nothing. 1 Kings 10, 14 through 25. But remember, when you're disobedient to your parents, they can cut your inheritance off. Mm-hmm. We got our inheritance snatched and given to another people. 1 Kings 10, we're going 14 through 25. Go ahead, my brother.
Now the weight of the gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 606 talents of gold.
Stop. $1.2 billion in 1 year. We ain't talking about the other stuff. Just racks on racks on racks. Go ahead, sir.
Beside that, he had of the merchantmen, and of the traffic of the spice merchants, and of all the kings of Arabia, and of the governors of the country.
They ain't even put a amount on that. More bread, more cheese, Gouda, guac. I gotta say it in different terms so y'all can gather what I'm saying right now. Our nation was racking without even trying. The blessings will do what?
Overtake thee.
Overtake you. Go ahead, my brother.
16.
Come on.
And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went to one target.
Now, I don't know what a target is, but that's $3 million. Go ahead.
And he made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 pounds of gold went to one shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon.
That's 900 pounds of gold at 21 million. Go ahead, sir.
18. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the best gold.
Now, I bet when Queen of Sheba saw that, that's when she was like, that throne? No. You see, girl, you see his throne? That tickles me. Verse 19. Bear with me and my father. Verse 19. Go ahead.
The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round behind.
So it's got a big round back on that joint. So it's like this big with a round back. All gold. Go ahead, sir.
And there were stays on either side on the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the stage.
Just in case you don't feel like walking. Don't carry me, homie. Floating on a gold throne. Y'all ain't hearing me? When we know when we do it, man, we do it. Goodness, we do it. Ooh. Where do you think them Arabs got it from, man? Come on. Diamond cars? Come on. Come on. Come on. You know it was the Israelite over there like, man, if I had that oil money, I'd make me a diamond car. That sounds really good to me. I gave him that idea, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead, my brother. Come on.
20. And 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the up in the
Right, it's too much, ain't it? It's silly. It's dumb.
killing.
6 lions on the with. Come on, man. Go ahead, brother.
And 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any
Kingdom.
That's why he had 1,000 wives. Because he had a throne made out of gold with gold lions, and it was crazy. And y'all gotta be real. Every woman that saw that throne was like, but did you see his throne? No. Stop playing. Y'all out here trying to, I wouldn't say that. Right? I'm saying that. And I'm a dude. What that dude doing? Man, I don't like that. Where them clubs at? Nah, I'm just playing. Man. Give me verse 20 again, brother, please. Go ahead.
And 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the other, and on the other upon the 6 steps.
Yeah.
There was not the like made in any kingdom.
Come on.
And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold.
Stop. I don't even know who lived in the forest house of Lebanon. But that got gold too. Y'all understand? What we lost.
Yes.
We lost this. We have nobody that we can look and the other nations look at and be like, wow, this is incredible. They look at us like, they fighting over Popeyes. What now? Right. Now, did you see his throne? Go ahead, my brother. Verse 21 from the top. Go ahead, bro.
And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold.
10.
Gold.
Come on.
And all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver.
Just in case you might have thought something. Go ahead, brother.
It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon.
In other words, it was nothing to ball. 22.
For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with a navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks.
Stop. How long did Solomon rule?
40 years.
So every 3rd year, he got a fresh supply of apes, gold, peacocks coming through. Come on, man. Y'all understanding what's going on right here? Can I get a thumb of y'all comprehending the entire insanity that was going on up in the kingdom, man? We had it popping. Super popping. We had it super popping. The Lord's like, I'm going to bless you. Because you got to think. For like gold, silver, and jewels is something to us, but to God who made it, it's like nothing. He's like, well, I don't know. I think they might like it. Go and give them some more. Go and give them some more. Go and give them some more. To the point where it's just like coming out your ears. The blessings will overtake us. We lost this. Go ahead, brother.
23.
Come on.
So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom.
Come on.
And all the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart.
Stop. We have some of the Psalms and the Proverbs to represent Solomon's wisdom. This just said his wisdom was par on par with his wealth. Can you imagine the broadness of heart that Solomon had? His wisdom was on par with a gold throne and a gold peacock and a gold monkey. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Go ahead, my brother.
25. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and garments, and armor, and spices, horses, and mules, a rate year by year.
Now let's get Solomon's temple's numbers. Let's put a number on it. Y'all about to hear what we lost. And all I'm doing is taking our national monuments, because that's the only thing that I could quantify. It made sense how Andrew did it. I just followed suit. Go ahead, sir.
Solomon's Temple, source, templemount.org. It is known that most or all of the holy vessels of gold and silver from the tabernacle with the ark, when it was brought from the city of David to the first temple by Solomon, 1 Kings 8:4, although David desired to build a permanent house of God in Jerusalem, his son Solomon built the first temple. The plans were those of David, and David amassed the materials. 1 Chronicles 28, verses 1 through 19. 2 Chronicles 2 and 4, chapters 2 through 4. 1 Kings 6 and 7. These materials include 100,000 talents of gold and 1,000,000 talents of silver. 1 Chronicles 29. From his own private fortune, David also gave 3,000 talents of gold and 7,000 talents of high-grade silver. This is an enormous quantity of gold and silver by any standard. 100,000 talents of gold equals 3,750 tons. Value today equaling $45 billion. 1,000,000 talents of silver equals 37,500 tons, valued today equaling $10.8 billion.
We in the billions. We in the billions. But that was 97.
So,
In round numbers, the wealth of the first temple was about $56 billion.
That was in 97 gold and silver standard numbers. Go ahead.
That was 22 years ago in 1997 dollars. In today's dollars, we're talking about 110 billion for the gold used, plus 13 billion for the silver used, for a grand total of $123 billion. A billion is 1,000 millions. 16 billion more than Jeff Bezos.
So the richest man in the world today is still lagging behind how we were back in 3000 BC. We lost $127 billion, $30 million in the BC era. That's what we had. Now, I don't know if you guys are comfortable with that, or if that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Me personally, that makes me highly upset. Right, hard pipe hitting money right there, right? At this point, the kingdom is united under Solomon. Everything is good, more or less. Now let's get to the decline. Let's get to why we're sitting over here right now trying to figure out how we're going to put gas in our cars. Let's go to 1 Kings 11.
good stuff. So,
Praise the Most High.
yes.
Trying to figure out how we can go exempt so we don't have to pay taxes on our money, but then get in trouble and then figure out how to pay back the money in taxes because we went exempt. So we can pay some bills.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Like Kanye said, I got a couple of balances due. I won't be specific. Hi. I'm in that boat too. Here's the point though. We shouldn't be in this boat.
Right.
$127 billion in 3,700 something BC. Imagine bringing that amount of money forward, adjusting for inflation. That is what we're supposed to be having. Our foundation was 127 billion. Y'all ain't hearing me.
Yes, we are.
1 Kings 11. Here comes the decline. Now I'm going to be the bearer of bad news. And this ain't to hate, let me put the disclaimer. This is not to hate the white man.
Right.
I just want us to understand what we did wrong. And I want us to be able to put the facts on the table intelligently. 1 Kings 11, this is what started it. 1 Kings 11, we're going 4 through 11. Go ahead, my brother.
For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father.
Come on.
For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites.
Stop. What is this sin called?
Idolatry.
Say it again.
Idolatry.
That's right. sir.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
The first commandment.
First thing. First commandment. Go ahead, sir.
6. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father.
Stop. Are we going fully after our God?
Come on.
Every day.
Come on.
Is it game time every day?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hopefully. Are we praying as much as we should?
Always be praying.
How's our alms game?
Right.
How's our Bible reading game?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I've been slacking too. I'm not trying to impute this and stand up here like I'm Mr. Rogers and I've got a gold throne. I've been slacking too. Life gets in the way.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, one of Solomon's problems was he didn't go fully after his God. Go ahead, sir.
7.
Come on.
Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem.
So right before you come up to Jerusalem, you see an idol.
Right.
Before you get to Jerusalem, the first thing you see is an idol, and in the background you see a gold temple. That don't make no sense. Israel's crazy. Go ahead, my brother.
And for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which he burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods.
He didn't hold his ground. You don't let no woman lead you, you lead the woman. She don't want to serve your God, okay, fine. That's you,
Right.
not me.
That's right.
He didn't do that. Go ahead, sir.
9. And the Lord was angry with Solomon.
Happy with him.
Angry. He was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which he had appeared unto him twice.
Come on.
And had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not that which the Lord commanded.
Come on.
Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, For as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely bring the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servants.
That's the first step. Now let's walk down the timeline to 2019 to these chairs that y'all sitting in.
Okay.
Let's go to the North Kingdom. Let's go to the 10 tribes going into captivity. He said, I'm going to rend the kingdom out of your hands. That means slavery in God talk. 2 Kings 17. This is 722 BC when this goes down. I'm going to walk you from 722 BC to 2019. To 2019. This is 722 BC. This is the timeline. Those that know me know I love timelines.
Yes, sir. That's right.
2 Kings 17. 2 Kings 17, we're going 13 through 15, we're going to dance. I got you, bro. 2 Kings 17, verse 13, go ahead.
Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes according to all the law.
Some of the law.
All the law.
Just the stuff I like.
All the law.
Go ahead.
Which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like to the neck of their fathers, that did not believe in the Lord their God.
Stop. If y'all want to get on the Israel high horse and try to pretend like our forefathers had everything on point and was right, that verse right there should put us in perspective.
Right.
Our forefathers and mothers didn't believe in God. And I dare say a lot of us nowadays still don't believe in God. So let's not be in a fantasy world about what our forefathers and mothers did.
That's right.
Let's look at it in terms of reality. Y'all with me on that?
Yes, sir.
No Israel high horse, right?
Right.
Go ahead, my brother.
15.
Come on.
And they rejected his statutes.
Kept his statutes.
Rejected his statutes and his covenants that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them.
In other words, here's the repercussions for disobeying me. Those are the testimonies. Go ahead, sir.
And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were around about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them that they should not do like them.
Skip down to verse 18. Everybody's Kim Kardashian in the past, huh? Following vanity, huh? Chasing out the stuff that don't profit. Not to ride her. Society is like that in general, but I'm just saying. Skip down to verse 18. Go ahead, brother.
Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
Skip down to verse 22. Verse 22. This is 722 BC. Write that down. This is 722 BC. The northern kingdom is going into captivity at the hands of the Assyrians. This is the decline. Go ahead, sir. Verse 22.
For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he has said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
Read 23 again so they'll know what happened in 722 BC. Go ahead, sir.
Until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he has said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
Now I got a question, and I'm not talking to chairs or speakers. I'm talking to people. Was that slavery justified?
Yes.
Yes. That slavery, that is, by my counts, the second iteration. The first iteration was Exodus. This is the second iteration. Iteration means version. This is justified. Because our king and our nation and our forefathers and mothers dropped the ball. Now, let's go to 605 BC. Let's go to Daniel 1. The first southern kingdom exiles go into captivity in 605 BC.
First Southern Kingdom's exile.
First southern kingdom's exiles go into captivity into Babylon in 605 BC. There was the first Babylonian attack and then the last Babylonian attack. This is the Daniel and them though. We're going Daniel. This is the one Daniel, Meshach, Hananiah, and Azariah, along with the other captives, went into. The first one, where Jeremiah was left in the land, warning everybody, like, look, you see what's going on? We need to turn to God. And of course, no one listened. Daniel 1, we're going 1 through 2, and we're going to dance. Daniel 1, 1 through 2. Go ahead, my brother.
In the year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
So that was 604 BC. Hold on, 605 BC. Now Jerusalem falls. We're going to 586 BC. This is 586 BC. Jerusalem falls, and the remaining 85 to 90% people go into captivity. Just go to Jeremiah 39. This is 586 BC. This is the second attack, which basically decimates Jerusalem, and it only leaves a few people, a few of us in the land. Everyone else, a majority, in Babylon, under slavery. Justifiably, of course. Jeremiah 39. We're going 1 through 2. Jeremiah 39, we're going 1 through 2. This is like our third major iteration of slavery. Third major iteration. Southern Kingdom. Jeremiah 39, we're going 1 through 2, and we're going to dance. I got you, bro. Jeremiah 39, 1 through 2. Go ahead.
In the 9th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 10th month, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all his army against Jerusalem, and they besieged it. And in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the 4th month, the 9th day of the month, the city was broken up.
Skip down to verse 8. Verse 8. Go ahead, my brother.
And the Chaldeans burned the king's house, and the houses of the people with fire, and break down the walls of Jerusalem.
Come on.
Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive into Babylon the remnant of the people that remained in the city.
Stop. This is the 85 to 90% that was left over from the previous Babylonian attack.
Okay.
This is the remainder, the remnants. Go ahead, sir.
And those that fell away, that fell to him, with the rest of the people that remained.
Now, I'm going to show you something in verse 10. I want you to glean something out. Verse 10, go ahead, sir.
But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left in the poor of the people, which had nothing.
They had everything.
Which had nothing.
They had a little bit.
Which had nothing.
Come on.
In the land of Judah, and gave them vineyards and fields at the same time.
Key of David. They had nothing. They had nothing before the attack. In the midst of horror, death, and terror, they went from having nothing to having vineyards.
Wow, right?
The Lord turned their reality. He bent their reality. I'm showing you the key of David concept. And I'm showing you, even when it looks as bad as it can get, that ain't nothing with the Lord. All you got to do is be like, vineyards, life is great. Now, here's the last wave of Jews coming out. I'm sorry. This is the last wave of Jews coming out of Babylon back into Jerusalem. We're in 516 BC now. And again, I'm walking you all the way down to 2019. Let's go to Ezra 7. So the captivity is over. Ezra and them Nehemiah already started building on the temple, etc. The temple is finished. They're coming out. This is 516 BC. And after this, more or less, we're back in our land.
Okay.
Ezra 7. Ezra 7. And we're going 6 through 10. This is 516 BC. This is the last of the exiles from the Babylonian captivity coming back into Jerusalem. Ezra 7, we're going 6 through 10. Ezra 7, we're going 6 through 10. Go ahead, bro.
This Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses, which the Lord God of Israel had given. And the king granted him all his requests, according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him.
In other words, the king gave him everything that he asked for because the Lord made the king do it.
Right.
Also, sidebar, for anyone trying to tell you the Bible is false, it's a fairy tale, and it's not real, you take them to Isaiah 45 and you ask them, how was Cyrus's name called by God 100 years before he was born? If they can explain that, they get a cookie and a gold star. Which they can't. The Bible is real. It calls people's names, it calls kingdoms before they even start.
Right. That's right.
The king gave everything to Ezra that he requested because God was with him. Key of David. Y'all can hear him. Go ahead, my brother.
7.
Come on.
And there went up some of the children of Israel, and of the priests, and the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the Nethinims unto Jerusalem in the 7th year of Artaxerxes the king.
Come on.
And he came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king. For upon the 1st day of the 1st month began he to go up from Babylon, and on the 1st day of the 5th month came he to Jerusalem, according to the good hand of his God upon him.
Again, the key of David. Go ahead, sir.
For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord, and to do it.
Now just listen to it.
And to do
Just
it.
believe that God is so good, and I believe that in my heart I can say the sinner's prayer, and the sinner's prayer is going to have me in heaven floating around with my grandmother and my mom and everything else. It's like a cycle, right? They just keep hitting you, you're like, oh! Is that what it said?
No.
Well, what did it say?
And to do it.
That part.
And to teach in
That
Israel.
part.
Yes, sir.
Listen, seek, do.
That's right.
Right? And teach. That's what we should be doing. But we ain't on our job. That's why we broke. That's why we have that's why we're in slavery. We didn't seek it, listen, do it, and teach it.
Yes, sir.
It rhymes.
That's right.
Go ahead.
10. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord, and to do it, and to teach in Israel statutes and judgments.
Now, we in the land, more or less. We got enemies. We got stuff happening. The Lord is so wise and so intelligent that he put a warning in the Bible because he knew he was going to bring us into slavery. Let's go to Deuteronomy 29. We got warnings, man. Like, it's not like God is sitting up there on a throne trying to figure out how to twist us up. Like, the Lord is literally up there pleading our cause for us with the Father on a daily basis. Now, imagine him trying to have to go back and re-explain why we just did the same stupid thing that we just did. That's like the judge lets you off and don't give you 25 with an L, and then next week you back up in there. Let's make Christ's job easy when he pleads our cause. Y'all dig what I'm talking about? Deuteronomy 29. Because Satan is accusing all the time. I'm not letting him get out. Look. Stuff going moderately well right now. Yes, a boss, okay? Deuteronomy 29. Here's the warning and the prophecy. Deuteronomy 29, 24 through 28. Go ahead, my brother. 24 through 28.
Even all the nations shall say, wherefore hath the Lord done this unto this land? What meaneth the heat of this great anger? Then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord God of their fathers.
No, it said because they didn't believe in God.
For they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt.
With great riches, by the way.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
26.
Come on.
For they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods whom they knew not, and whom they had not given unto them. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land, to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book.
Come on.
And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day.
Stop.
Yes, sir.
That's why we in America right now, in Southern America, in Russia, and all over the planet. We everywhere but where we supposed to be. Because we did not follow our God, which gave us enough wealth to build $127 billion temples.
Okay.
Let's go to the curse. Back to the curse. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. Now, I am not going to read all the way through this time. I'm going to jump directly to the slave ships because right now we're stuck in 516 BC. And I need to get us from 516 BC to the shores of America to you guys sitting in these chairs. Y'all with me on what I'm doing right now? Deuteronomy 28, we're going to 15, and we're going to skip directly to the slave ships. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. Here's the warning. Go ahead, sir.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments.
Some of them.
All his commandments.
I'm tired.
All his
I don't
commandments.
feel like going to class.
All his
I'm
commandments.
going to steal something.
All his commandments.
Go ahead.
And his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Stop. I know we're human. I do that to show y'all I feel it. I understand. Life gets hard, it gets rough, but the reality is, y'all think God is waiting for excuses?
No.
Y'all think God is trying to hear, oh, I'm human, Lord?
No.
What did Christ say is going to happen on that day? He said many will do what?
Say, Lord.
No, he said many will come to him and say,
Lord,
what?
Lord. Lord, 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 have I not done miracles in your name? Cast out devils, heal the sick.
And what is he going to say?
Never knew you. Depart me from me. You work in iniquity.
What's your name?
Depart from me, you workers of iniquity.
Workers of iniquity. That's right.
I never knew you.
That's right. Let's go.
Are we going to keep making excuses?
No.
That's why we're sitting over here right now trying to figure out how we're going to help whoever we need to help while we're trying to help somebody to help us.
Teach.
We lost everything, even our identity. I'm dealing with the monetary aspects of it.
Right.
But we lost everything, including our identity. That's like being kicked out the house, you ain't got no money, and they take your ID and your name. Conky over your head, you don't even know who you are no more. You don't even know. We don't even know we kings, and we the sons and daughters of a king.
Yes.
We don't even know that.
Make it plain.
We fighting over Popeye's chicken sandwiches.
Make it so.
Ain't that crazy? Yeah. That's retarded. Now, how do we get in these seats? 68. Skip to verse 68, man. Let's go.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
All right? Now, let me step out of this, and let me not assume you know what that means. And let me give you an argument when people say, I don't understand what Egypt means. Egypt with ships, I don't understand that. I want you to also glean when he says, thou shalt see it no more. He's talking about Egypt. Because remember, he would always tell the children of Israel, don't go back to Egypt. Mm-hmm. So he's like, you're not going to see Egypt anymore. Egypt represents something. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7. I'm going to show you what Egypt, or should I say, I'm going to let the book show us what Egypt means, not me. Deuteronomy 7. Y'all still with me out there? Y'all following me? Y'all feelings hurt yet?
Yes.
Are y'all upset at not only our forefathers and mothers' behavior, but our own behavior?
Yes.
I'm upset at my individual behavior when I get mad for no reason. When I'm ungrateful, I should be angry at myself. Let me show you what Egypt means. Deuteronomy 7:1 verse 8. Go ahead, brother.
But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he has sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So, house of bondmen, he said, I'm going to bring you into Egypt with ships again, and you will be bondmen. All right, well, that's cool. All right, that's one. You know, you could be twisting it up, bro. You could be twisting it up. All right, let's go to Exodus 20 then. Y'all think I'm twisting it up? All right. And honestly, I literally thought, you know what, I could do a whole lesson about Egypt, what Egypt is. But I won't do that because that would be boring. Because we already know it's slavery. We already know what it is. I'm just giving y'all some darts, like the Wu-Tang say, some darts. So y'all can deal with people when they be like, are you twisting that scripture, that 68 to mean what you want it to mean? No, Egypt is bondage. It's slavery. That's where we had our first iteration of slavery. And then we came out with enough to build $127 billion worth of. All right, Exodus 20, verse 2. What does Egypt mean again, brother? Go ahead. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Egypt is the house of bondage. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68 literally means you're going to go back into slavery on ships. Point blank, period. Anybody trying to tell me it means anything other than that, they got to walk me through this Bible. And don't try to have a so-called Jew show me in the year, what was that, 70, wait, what did he say? Yeah, wait. Well, they actually went to Egypt again, and they were sold. And no. Stop it. Stop it. First of all, before you tell me that BS, what tribe are you from?
Okay.
So figure that out, then you come back to me when you talk about my people. Sorry, I got a little mad for a second. Now, what does no man will buy you mean? All right? You're going to go into Egypt in the ships, but no man's going to buy you. It's kind of an oxymoron, right? How you going to go into slavery, but nobody bought you? Let me show you what that means. Isaiah 52. Sometimes I got to go in parallel dimensions and dissect the doctrine. This ain't even a full spacewalk. This is just a few darts. That's all this is. Isaiah 52. And you're not going to use this on a racist intellectual. Like, don't even bring the Bible into that. You're going to deal with them with this segment that's coming up. But this is for when you're explaining to your family members, what does Egypt with ships mean?
Yes, sir.
Isaiah 52. When you go to Big Mama, and you telling Big Mama about them ships, and she like, well, it say they ain't going to buy you. What that mean? All right. Isaiah 52. Take Big Mama right here. Isaiah 52, go 2 through 3. Go ahead, bro.
Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion.
Stop. He's talking to a slave. He's talking to a captive, telling the captive, take them bands off your neck. We ain't talking about T.I. bands. We talking about bands, okay? Prison bands, like chains, shackles bands. Y'all with me on that? Go ahead, sir.
3. For thus saith the Lord, ye have sold yourselves for naught, and ye shall be redeemed without money.
Read that again. Verse 3, sir.
For thus saith the Lord, ye have sold yourselves for naught.
In other words, we put ourselves in this position for no reason. There wasn't a logical reason for us to be in this position. And conversely, go ahead, sir.
And ye shall be redeemed without money.
That means only the Lord can save us.
Yes, sir.
No president, no prime minister,
Nope.
no militia, Black Panther army with some guns. When a tank comes, they gonna run. When they fly a drone over their head, they gonna run. None of that's gonna save us. Only obedience to God is gonna save us. We understand this concept.
Yes, sir.
You understand what to tell Big Mama when you take her here. That part. Now, we back in our land in 516 BC. So now let's fast forward to 70 AD. We're forced out of our land by Titus, right? And we're fleeing into Africa at this point, all right? So in 70 AD, Titus came, put a trench around Jerusalem. You guys know that from Atlas of the Bible, or the last 2 million years? Last 2 million years. Titus, look him up. Sacked Jerusalem in 70 AD, forced us to run into Africa, right? We were living in African refugee camps on the west coast of Africa, all right? Now, the transatlantic slave trade began with a papal bull called Dum Diversas that was signed in 1452. June 18th, 1452 is when the transatlantic and the intra-American slave trade began by a papal bull from Pope Nicholas V and the King of Portugal. That is what began the transatlantic slave trade in 1452 in June. Now, the children of Israel, we were captured by real Arabs, right, and real Africans, and sold to the Portuguese. And the Portuguese was in the slave trade game for 100 years before everyone else jumped in because of Dum Diversas. They had an advantage, a tactical advantage. That's why a majority of us are in South America, because of the advantage that they had. That's why a majority of us speak Portuguese and Spanish, because of Dum Diversas. Y'all understanding Dum Diversas?
Yes, sir.
A couple of y'all understanding Dum Diversas. Now, we're placed on slave ships per Deuteronomy 68, and through chattel slavery,
Okay.
we are sold globally,
Yes.
over and over again, and over again. Okay? Now, don't believe me? Let's go to another prophecy. Where we at? Joel. Let's go to Joel. Let's go to Joel. That's the less black version of Joel. You better give Joel his $5. He just got out the jump. Joel 3. Joel 3, 1 through 6. Joel 3, we're going 1 through 6. Here's another prophecy. Don't believe me. Joel 3, 1 through 6. Go ahead, my brother.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
Come on.
And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. 3 things they did. Cast lot for my people. Ever seen movies that talk about how a slave auction was run? Sometimes you pick the number, right? They had a limit on how many slaves you could buy in some instances, right? So that's one thing, casting lots for your people. Also giving a boy for a prostitute.
Right.
So you're giving a human being for a sexual transaction.
Right.
Do you understand how sick that is?
Right.
Third thing, sold a girl. Imagine somebody taking your daughter and selling your daughter for some wine. How would that make you as a parent feel? I'm asking y'all this question. How would that make y'all feel? That is why
I hate to even think about that.
part 3, I'm going to get into part 3. I'm going to get into that. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Prophecy from God. Prophecy, prophetic. This does not match anybody else but us. Y'all with me on that?
But us.
Go ahead, sir.
But us.
Verse 4.
Come on.
Yea, And what had ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head.
He's like, even if you could pay me back for what you did, would I accept that and still not smash on you? Go ahead, sir.
Verse 5.
Come on.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things.
Come on.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border.
The children of Judah and Jerusalem you have sold to the Grecians to remove them far from their border. Far from our homelands.
Yes, sir.
Now I got these maps. One for this side. I want y'all to pass them around. Don't ball haul them, please. I know y'all can. I know Israel will ball haul a chicken sandwich. They'll ball haul these maps too. You got that. So I'm gonna explain to you what you're looking at in these maps. Now, do you guys know that Ham is not the progenitor of the Negro?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have to go through all that elaborate explanation. For those that don't know, in the Revell Bible Dictionary, I'm talking to you, in the Revell Bible Dictionary, it defines Ham as the person who is the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro.
Right, not the Negro.
Right, not us. This is a picture, or should I say maps of Negro land. So this place is named after who?
Us.
Us.
That's right.
And we didn't name this place. The Europeans named it Negro land. Specifically, Negro land in Guinea, with the European settlements explaining what belongs to Egypt, Holland, and Denmark. That's the first picture. Negro land, west coast of Africa. We were in the west coast of Africa in refugee communities because we were pushed out of our homeland. Y'all understanding that? First page concept. Second page, zoomed in on it. And in Negro land, right here, it has the kingdom of Judah in Negro land.
Okay.
Juda, the kingdom of Judah on the west coast of Africa, where the slave ships were filled to the brim with Negroes. That's the second page. Third page on the Negro land map. Y'all know I go deep. I go thorough. Now, it's another map called the Negrita map, which I'm fairly certain Negrita is like Negro, whatever, right? Spanish version of it. There's a place called Lamb Land. Also the Negro land, by the way. And on this map, it says it is populated by Jews on the Lamb map. The Negrita map, which is just Negro land, and it says populated by Jews. In other words, you don't know who you are, but everybody that was buying and selling you and trading you to a girl for a drink, they knew who you were. Y'all understanding that concept? Do you feel comfortable about that, though?
No.
Absolutely
I don't
not.
feel comfortable about that at all.
Sucks.
Now, here we go. Also on the Negro land map, right? This is the D'Anville map of what? I don't have the date on it. Anywho, of course, Negro land map, D'Anville map. On this map, it has the name Falashin Jews on this map. And again, this is an old 17th century map that talks about the Falashins, you know, the Ethiopian Jews.
Right.
And it says Falashin, and you know, like Old English is like all jumbled and weird, but it literally talks about Falashin Jews
Right.
on the west coast of Africa, in Negro land,
Right.
where the slave ships came from,
Come on.
far from our border.
Yes, sir.
See, I like to go 4 or 5 things out so you can't run from it. This ain't no weird or false doctrine. False doctrine falls apart 2 ripples out. Just remember that. So that's what you guys are looking at. Now, also, y'all know how I get down. I got a spreadsheet that quantifies the numbers of slaves that they can find
Okay.
from the transatlantic slave trade and the intra-America slave trade, and the grand total of slaves from starting in 1501
Wow.
to 1875 was 12,000,000 521,337 of us that they knew about.
Okay, repeat that number, please. 12 million.
12 million. 521,337 of men, women, and children that they sold for a drink because of our disobedience to our king. Not the white man. This ain't no get mad at the white man. This is get mad at yourself. Slap yourself in the face. And the second one is the intra-American slave trade. The intra-American slave trade was very interesting. It was a path of ships that just went into the Americas, the Caribbean, Jamaica, etc., and just moved slaves to different colonies. So in other words, the French would make a deal with the English to buy 2,000 slaves and move people on the pond on the board like pawns. That's the intra-American slave trade. Now that I'm done with that, here's an American history lesson time.
Okay.
First slave ship lands in Virginia in 1619. It was called the White Lion.
White line.
Does anyone in here know how long slavery went on in North America? Anyone?
445 years.
Nope.
200.
Go ahead.
Let's see, 200.
You should know. You my mama. Don't say nothing. I'm looking for
200.
right? I'm asking y'all.
Oh, 165 years?
See,
165.
anyone other than Trina? I did ask. That's true. Does anyone in here know how long slavery went on in North America?
No.
You said a year in?
Yeah.
1865.
It was 60. It started in 1619. Now don't put. I need to see you down there with your calculator. It was what year? 16, 19, 20. Here's my point. We have some of the greatest teachers that money can't buy, and I had to figure out on my own how long slavery went on. That's egregious. I'm here to tell you, and if I ever ask this ever again, everyone in here should be able to know this. And more importantly, if anybody ever tells you get over slavery, you can say this to them. Slavery went on for 245 years.
But you weren't supposed to. Oh,
Right, you weren't supposed to. 245 years. Slavery has only been over for 155 years.
only been over for.
155 years.
So we was enslaved a lot more than we did.
Correct. And not only that, Sister Minnie, do you remember Jim Crow? Do you remember separate but equal? I'm here to tell you personally, and everyone in here, not just you, Jim Crow ended in 1964. We're only 55 years away from not being able to eat in the same restaurants and go to the same schools. So if someone is telling me to get over slavery and get over this and get over that, okay, well, how do you explain it only being 55 years ago that I could go to the same school as you or drink out of the same water fountain? We're only 55 years away from that. You understand how at a disadvantage we are because of our disobedience.
Come on now.
Y'all understand it?
Yes, sir.
Well, I remember one.
Now, let's try to put a number on this. We here for the money, right? Y'all here for the money?
Yes, sir.
Let's put the money on the table.
Let's do that.
Let's go to Zechariah 11.
Okay.
Y'all still with me out there?
It's awesome.
Y'all sad yet?
Fancy.
Y'all mad a little bit. Who you mad at though? I'm glad nobody's like the white man. No. This is not to turn into a Jamaican freedom fighter. We don't want the almighty Jah to recompense the white man for his evil against his children. Right. That is not what this is for. Don't turn into that. Zechariah 11. Hey, I got a knife too. We both can get them up off of us, right? And the door right there. Y'all know I do a security check in every room I go into. Zechariah 11. What did the nation say about us? Zechariah 11. We're going 4 through 5. Zechariah 11, 4 through 5. Go ahead, sir.
Thus saith the Lord my God, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessor slays them, and hold themselves not guilty.
Stop. And they still doing it because they still own us. You think that they don't think that we're property still? It's only been 55 years ago that we couldn't drink from a water fountain. They still saying the same thing, and they're supposed to. I covered the pseudoscience that put that mindset in the construct in lesson 1. Find that, deal with that. Go ahead, sir.
Whose possessor slays them, and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not.
They that sell them, they that bought them from ships that came from the west coast of Africa, from Negro land, was like, I need me some more slaves. I need more money. Right?
Bless the Lord.
Right? Y'all see it, right? Remember Big Daddy? Right? Thank you, sir. Let's go back to the curses. Now we're going to deal with what we lost according to the curses. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28. Get ready for the money. Get your pens out. Get ready for the money. This is what we lost. And I don't care how much money you think you have or you make from your job or this, you got in the 4. It's nothing compared to what we lost for our disobedience to our King. Deuteronomy 28. Shouldn't be fighting over Popeyes. We should own Popeyes. Matter of fact, we should own a version of Popeyes that's good for you.
Right.
Deuteronomy 28. All the bad food is in the hood. 40 ounces of beer they invented to sell to us specifically. Because our problems would be so great we would need 40 ounces of alcohol. Like that's mind-boggling. Like what sick person's like, 40 ounces of alcohol. They'll buy it. They don't have jobs anyway. No, for real. Think tanks against us. They have think tanks. Deuteronomy 28, we're going 16 through 20. Or we're going to dance. Go ahead, my brother.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
Hit that black poverty is rooted in real estate exploitation. Get your pens out. Here comes the numbers. This is what we lost. This is wealth from our children that was taken from us. Go ahead, sir.
How housing finance enriched whites at expense of black owners. Source, Bloomberg.
Yes, sir. Bloomberg, very trusted financial information source. Go ahead, sir.
Black poverty is rooted in real estate exploration.
Exploration? Or
exploitation.
Real estate exploitation. Taking advantage of us using real estate. Cursed you shall be in the city. I'm going to show you. Go ahead, sir.
A new study in Chicago shows how the dream of home ownership was converted into a poverty trap.
A what trap?
A poverty trap.
Come on. You'll see the start and stop faces. Yep.
Housing has long played a crucial role in American wealth accumulation. People buy homes with federally subsidized mortgages.
That's called FHA lending. It allows you to put down at like 3% at the lowest. A lot of people can buy houses using FHA financing. I'll cover that in part 3. Y'all ain't understanding what part 3 is going to be. Go ahead, sir.
Build up equity and pass the assets on to their children. But as recently as the 1960s, 1960s,
Come on.
Government policy excluded blacks in a practice known as redlining.
I covered that in part 1. Go ahead, sir.
The Federal Housing Administration designated predominantly black neighborhoods as no-go zones for government-insured mortgage loans.
Stop. If it's black people there, we are not putting money in this. There will be no money, no funding for black people to purchase houses at a cheap rate. Go ahead, sir.
The FHA also wouldn't guarantee loans for new mixed-race developments.
So if your husband was black and your wife was white, you ain't got no house. You got to be brave to marry inside of Israel. the curses hit you in the face too. Go ahead, sir.
The presence of even a single black family was enough to warrant rejection. Hence, blacks had to find other ways to obtain shelter. One was contract for deed, an arrangement usually offered by speculators who bought properties expressly for the purpose. It required a down payment and regular monthly installments from the occupant, but that's where the similarities to a mortgage ended. The sale price and effective interest rate tended to be wildly inflated.
So in other words, you don't have a fixed rate mortgage, right? Nowadays you can buy one fixed for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. There, the interest rate is whatever dude felt like at that moment. Whatever he needed to pay for. However much money he thought you had in your pocket that he can hit you for. Go ahead, sir.
The buyer assumed all the responsibilities of a homeowner, including repairs and taxes, while the seller retained title, along with the power to evict for missing even a single payment. As a result, do you want to skip that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now researchers, including Jack McNamara, who as a young Jesuit seminarian helped organize the League, have tapped those lawsuits along with municipal records and the work of other scholars to come up with an estimate of how much this one predatory practice in one city set back black families.
So this is one of the tactics in one city. And this amount correlates directly to that city, which is Chicago, over a 20-year period. You're going to vomit when you hear how much one city was. Go ahead, sir.
Using data on sales and mortgage rates, they calculated how much each family's payments exceeded what they would have been if the property had been purchased at the prevailing market price with a conventional mortgage and loan.
So in other words, if the house cost $100,000, they figured that they paid $400,000 for the house. If they ever got the house, which they probably did not.
Exactly.
Go ahead, sir.
They then added up for all the contract properties they could identify from the years 1950 to 1970. 1950 to 1970.
1970.
Right.
That ain't that far back.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
The outcome. Black families were overcharged somewhere between $3.2 billion and $4 billion in 2019 dollars.
$4 billion. One city. Over 20 years.
Wow.
$4 billion. Us.
Right.
Read this, sir. Curse, you're going to be in the city, right?
Yeah.
$4 billion worth of curses? Yeah. Now them faces is what I'm talking about. Y'all feel how I feel.
Right.
That's the look I'm looking for.
That's right.
Not, I don't care. No. For what now?
Mhm.
$4 billion.
In one city.
One city. Chicago. Over 20 years. Go ahead, sir.
From the Atlanta Black Star. It's a domino effect. Study confirms racial bias is costing black homeowners an average $48,000.
This is today, right now, not back then. An average of $50,000 is being siphoned off from our wealth if we are so lucky, if we're lucky enough to even own property, let alone properties. Go ahead, sir.
Homes in predominantly black neighborhoods are undervalued by an average of $48,000, according to a recent study by the Brookings Institution in conjunction with Gallup.
Hold on for a second. This is the study. I actually read this study to make sure that what they were talking about was accurate with the findings of the study. They boiled the study down, but my scholarship is like, no, I got to see the study myself.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
The report published in November explores the myriad of reasons why home prices tend to be lower in black communities than in white ones, and how these factors have contributed to a sort of domino effect, destroying the quality of life in black neighborhoods nationwide.
Come on. All the way to there.
Study authors Andre Perry, Jonathan Rothwell, and David Harshbarger pointed to data from real estate database Zillow showing that the median listing price of residential property in a majority black community in a metro city is around $184,000.
So $184,000. This is on Zillow. This is not hidden. You can look on Zillow and figure this out yourselves. Go ahead, sir.
Meanwhile, the median listing price in a majority white community where black Americans account for less than 1% of the population is well over $341,000.
In California, predominantly white areas, the average house is like $700,000. 700,000.
That's about right.
They don't want to live near you or me. They're going to price us out. Go ahead, sir.
The authors wanted to look beyond those numbers, however, and stripped away all the other structural and neighborhood factors that plausibly could be used to explain the disparities in valuations between homes in black and white neighborhoods.
So they're just like, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. This is what they came with. Go ahead, sir.
Like other bodies of research, what they found was that years of racist policies.
Years of what now?
Years of racist policies.
Years of racist policies. Go ahead, sir.
Including redlining,
Which we just read about.
segregation, exclusionary zoning, and deed restrictions.
By the way, this went on for 100 years. Jim Crow went on for 85 years. Go ahead, sir.
Among others, have eroded opportunities for wealth and financial security in black communities. Yet they wanted to know more, specifically, how they could determine how much racism siphons wealth from black homeowners.
Racism siphons wealth from black homeowners. Racism takes money out of your pocket. Y'all ain't understanding me.
That's right.
Racism takes money out of everybody black's pocket.
Make that plain.
Because we disobeyed God. The curses will overtake you in this city. And it will be where you live and how that correlates to your pocketbook. Go ahead, sir.
That's where the $48,000 comes in.
Come on.
That's the amount the average home in a majority black neighborhood is undervalued relative to an identical home in an identical all-white neighborhood.
Come on.
Once you properly adjust for all the other structural and neighborhood characteristics that could plausibly affect that number. The Washington Post's Christopher Ingraham wrote, that's the cost of racial bias.
Stop. The curses is the cost of racial bias, which equates out to $50,000 per property, per black family. I got a question. Would anyone in here like $50,000 right now?
Yeah.
Would anyone in here like to have $50,000 taken out of their pockets right now?
No. Nope.
That's the cost of disobedience. Go ahead, sir.
Decades of discriminatory housing policies have essentially amounted to $156 billion in cumulative losses.
Please stop. Get your pens ready. Give me that number again, please.
$156 billion in cumulative losses.
Wow. Right?
Y'all just like, so? I don't care. Don't matter to me. I don't care at all.
That's horrible.
I don't know. I guess I'm the only person that cares.
That's just horrible.
Let's get back to the book. That's just curse shall you be in the city. $156 billion worth of curses in the city. Make you want to holler, right? Dollars mouth tight to the lawyer. Who I punch? Who I get to take off on? Just point them out. Nobody. We ain't got nobody to swing on.
This is good stuff.
Deuteronomy 28. That's why I skipped all these curses. Make you want to go get your dreadlocks on, right? Deuteronomy 28, verse 17. Back to the curses. Go ahead, my brother.
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
Come on.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Come on.
The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly. because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me.
Skip down to verse 29. Ain't hearing you. Verse 29. Go ahead, bro.
And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save thee.
I think I just proved that one with the housing market.
Yes, sir.
Oppressed and spoiled. Spoiled means robbed. We get charged more for everything. When a modern day, when a neo-intellectual racist wants to tell you get over slavery and get over everything, they're not even considering that we are taxed and charged more for everything. Because their perspective is their life, not ours.
Exactly.
But I tell you this, I will be damned and go to hell before I let them impute anything against my people and not put the numbers on the table. Go ahead, sir.
30.
Come on.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Skip down to 33. Go ahead, my brother.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
I got a question. Them sugar fields, those tobacco fields, those cotton fields, did we reap any of the benefits of that labor?
No.
Absolutely not.
I just proved that out the Bible. Skip down to verse 43. Verse 43. Go ahead, my brother.
The stranger that is within thee, shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
Kind of low.
Very low.
A little bit low.
Very low.
Dip low.
Very low.
Go ahead.
And he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
44, one more again.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Let me prove it in reality with the banking system. You're only reading 2. I'm only giving you 2 banks. It's 15 companies, but I'm only giving you 2 banks that this fits perfectly. He's going to lend to you on the money he makes from you at an inflated interest rate while you go into debt, while your credit stays bad. Go ahead, sir.
This comes from the ABS contributor. 15 major corporations you never knew profited from slavery.
And they're big, and I'm not giving you all 15 because then y'all probably start a riot up in here and go dreadlocks and yada, yada, yada. Go ahead, brother.
J.P. Morgan Chase.
Stop. Who got a Chase card in their wallet right now? Anybody? Got a Chase card? Got a Chase card? Got a Chase card. Who got a car loan through Chase? Who got a mortgage through Chase? Go ahead.
J.P. Morgan Chase admitted their company's links to slavery.
Wait, did it what now?
Admitted their company's links to slavery.
When they say links, they mean money. Go ahead, sir.
Today, we are reporting that this research found that between 1831 and 1865, 2 of our predecessor banks,
in other words, banks they bought in a merger and acquisition. Mergers and acquisition is how you, well, anyway. Go ahead, sir.
Citizens Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana.
In where now?
In Louisiana.
The capital of the sugar trade was in Louisiana. I didn't even read that. I left that out. It's here if someone wants to read about how much money sugar was generated as far as slavery is concerned. But one of the banks that they bought from Louisiana was a Louisiana sugar bank that profited from slavery. Go ahead, sir.
Accepted approximately 13,000 enslaved individuals as collateral.
Stop. They lent on you. And then lent money on you to other people that weren't you, that made money and bought you back. Fast forward to today, all of the loans and everything are a part of that pot of money. They're lending to us from us.
Yeah. That's right.
Y'all hear me? He's going to get up so high, you're going to come down very low. He is going to lend and you are going to borrow on yourself because of our disobedience. Because we wanted to, instead of ball and have $127 billion in the BC era, we want to worship other gods. Go ahead, brother.
accepted approximately 13,000 enslaved individuals as collateral on loans and took ownership of approximately 1,250 of them when the plantation owners defaulted on the loans.
Gentiles don't play. They'll foreclose on themselves because it's business. That's what slavery was. It was business. It wasn't personal. It was business. Go ahead, sir.
Number 2, Brown Brothers Harriman.
Stop. Anyone ever heard of Brown University?
Yeah.
These are the people that started Brown University. It's an Ivy League college. And this is an investment firm that was started by the same brothers that started Brown University. The endowment came from slaves. Y'all ain't hearing me. Y'all not hearing me? Go ahead, sir.
Brown Brothers Harriman is the oldest and largest private investment bank and securities firm in the United States, founded in 1818. USA Today found that the New York Merchant Bank of James and William Brown, currently known as Brown Brothers Harriman, owned hundreds of enslaved Africans and financed the cotton economy by lending millions to southern planters, merchants, and cotton brokers.
2, that lends on you. Back to the curses. Think I just proved verse 44, right? Back to the curses. Deuteronomy 28, verse 45. Verse 45. Go ahead, sir.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue
And they
thee,
shall what now?
and shall pursue thee,
Pursue means chase. Go ahead, sir.
and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
If only a little while.
Forever.
Well, only just a little while. Forever doesn't really mean forever.
Forever.
Now, after the 13th Amendment, we're free without any transfer of property, goods, and even clothing. Remember, some of us is walking, a majority of us is walking around buck naked in them fields picking cotton. I don't think y'all understand that. We don't have any wealth to build. So after the so-called freedom of black people in 1865, we got these things called the Black Codes, which are called the vagrancy laws, right? And the vagrancy laws were laws where if you didn't have a job or a piece of property, or you were just out running about, so to speak, or should I say you were out being vagrant, you would be arrested, and then you would be put in a chain gang, and then you would be leased back to these plantations in a practice called convict leasing. So this is kind of a passive-aggressive form of slavery. And convict leasing actually became really popular because it allowed you to put a small down payment on a large amount of slaves and work them and benefit from them and turn them in like a car and get fresh slaves. So after that was over, now the Black Codes were in 1866, they were passed. They were repealed by Reconstruction in 1877. Then the laws were remixed into Jim Crow in 1878, 1 year later. Jim Crow was repealed 86 years later by the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and that's only 55 years ago. Now, in 970 BC, we had $127 billion, $30 million. I'm going to show you how much we lost. Even more. This book, sir. Tell them what that book is.
The Black Tax.
The what?
The Black Tax. The Cost of Being Black in America by Sean D. Rochester.
Now let's go to page 46. Get your pens out. Get your smelling salts out, ladies. It might make you lose your breath. And I ain't talking about Beyonce's song either. Go ahead.
To get a sense of the value of slaves to the American economy, consider that in 1860, the value of America's 4 million slaves,
How many?
4 million
Come on.
slaves accounted for 16% to 20% of all U.S. wealth, or 1 to 2 years of national income.
We're talking GDP numbers because the numbers are so big. Gross domestic product. In other words, what a country brings in as far as revenue from business that it conducts with other countries. The numbers are so big, they have to relate it in GDP. Wow. Go ahead, sir.
The total U.S. wealth in 2016 was about 85 trillion.
How much?
85 trillion.
85 trillion. The U.S. economy was 85 trillion. Go ahead, sir.
The value of slaves as a function of U.S. wealth in 2016 would be the equivalent of 14 trillion to 17 trillion dollars.
We're talking trillions, not billions, trillions. We're talking 1,000 billions. Go ahead, sir.
Or about 15.5 trillion. The U.S. national income in 2016 was $19 trillion. The value of slaves as a function of U.S. national income in 2016 would be the equivalent of 19 trillion to 38 trillion, or about $28.5 trillion.
So we'll split the difference and say $28 trillion. Slaves, effectively, if you bring it forward and adjust for inflation, was worth, in today's money, $28 trillion. Almost 37 and 33%, 34% of 85 trillion. Go ahead, sir.
The average of these estimates in $22 trillion is $22 trillion, which represents the equivalent present value of the future net earnings that those slaves would provide to their masters in 2016.
So if slavery kept going, that's the amount of money that the people that owned our forefathers and mothers would have accumulated over the time frame. Go ahead, sir.
Today, the combined net worth of the more than 40 million African Americans.
How many of us?
More than 40 million African Americans is currently $1.5 trillion.
Stop. United States wealth is 85 trillion. We account for 1.6 trillion.
1.5.
1.5 trillion out of 85 trillion. That is less than 2%. That is actually 1.67%. I called a brother at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and got that number for part one. That's why I know that number so well. Less than 2%, approximately 1.67%. That's what our net worth is right now. Less than 1%, less than 2%. Y'all ain't hearing me. We went from having $127 billion to having less than 1.6% of $85 billion. Trillion dollars, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
This means that 4 million slaves in 1860 had an equivalent economic value that is about 15 times more than the net worth of 40 plus million black Americans 152 years later.
4 million slaves had more value than 40 million free people after 155 years of being free. When the Lord says, "Cursed shall you be," when he said they're going to overtake you, you think he's playing? The numbers don't lie. I put these lessons. The Lord gives me these lessons to give you the facts and the numbers.
Right.
He don't want you to be stupid out here.
Right.
It is a whole new level of educated people that's trying to tear the Bible apart and make us look like we dumb. We have got to have the numbers. I'm the one going to have the numbers. Anytime somebody come at me, I got the numbers. Go ahead, brother.
Since slavery by definition is a 100% tax on all labor produced by a slave,
Come on.
it is impressive that we understand the size of the tax imposed on enslaved people in terms of their uncompensated labor prior to emancipation.
Uncompensated means you ain't get a dime for it. Go ahead, sir.
Some researchers have estimated that the value of the labor extracted from enslaved Africans was up to 24 trillion and others up to $97 trillion.
Stop.
97 trillion.
Ain't hearing you.
That is just...
They ain't hearing you. Go ahead, bro.
Taking an average of these estimates yields a conservative valuation of up to 50 trillion.
50 trillion. 50 trillion.
Wow. Right?
50 trillion with a T. Go ahead, sir.
Which is the effective size of tax imposed on black people between 1619 and 1860.
1619 to what?
1860. 1619 to 1860, we lost the equivalent of $50 trillion. Our forefathers and mothers being enslaved have more value than we have today.
And that's just ridiculous.
Go ahead, brother. Go to page 82.
Right.
You ain't done. Page 82. You ain't getting away either. You getting punched in the face too as you read this. You ain't getting away. Ain't none of us getting away.
None of us in the world.
That's the cost of disobedience. It just ain't some whimsical verses in the Bible. There's real numbers attached to it, real lies attached to this. 12 million lies attached to it. Go ahead, sir.
Black tax from 1619 to the present, the short summary.
Come on.
Over 70 trillion of resources were extracted from...
Now you reading that like you hiding in the corner. Read that thing, brother.
I can't believe these numbers.
Come on, man.
Okay. Over 70 trillion of resources were extracted and or not provided to African Americans, which effectively destroyed Black America's ability to accumulate wealth and leave a substantial legacy for our children's children.
Stop. I ain't talking about a couple insurance policies. It says substantial.
Yeah.
Do you know what substantial means?
Guaranteed.
That means incredible.
Yes.
That means, oh, college is paid for. They already got houses by the time they turn a certain age, like how the nations do it. They have houses in trust funds.
Right.
They got trust funds where they can actually reduce their taxable income on their estate tax.
Right.
Part 3. Y'all don't know where I'm going with part 3. I might get set down for part 3. Go ahead, brother.
Let's see, which effectively destroyed Black America's ability to accumulate wealth and leave a substantial legacy for our children's children. Let's take a look at the numbers. They are a frightening and sobering look at how pervasive and systematic discrimination and biases have taxed and negatively affected Black America.
Anybody telling you there's no such thing as systemic racism, hit them with the numbers. They're going to tell you, oh, there's no such thing as systemic racism. That doesn't exist. That's just something Black people use as a crutch. Oh, I'm using $50 trillion as a crutch?
Right.
Hit them with the numbers, brother. Show them.
A, from slavery from 1619 to 1865, $50 trillion.
Get your pens out. Go ahead, bro.
B, present value of Black labor in 1860, $22 trillion. C, the Homestead Act of 1862 to...
Stop. I covered the Homestead Act in part 1. The Homestead Act basically was our answer to 40 acres and a mule, or Special Field Order 15. The Homestead Act went on for it went from 1865, it was amended in 1890, and it went on until 1971, where like millions of land was given to white Americans, right? I covered that in part 1. Go ahead, sir.
The Homestead Act, $1.6 trillion. D, sharecropping, Jim Crow Society.
Sharecropping. You know, you work on somebody's land, they tell you how much you owe every year, you never get out of debt, you're still a de facto slave, you can barely take care of yourself and your children, and if they get mad at you, they pop you in the head and throw you in a dang on ditch. Or sell you to the McKent Quarry, the LeQuint Dickey Quarry, right? Django. The LeQuint Dickey Quarry. That's convict leasing, by the way. Go ahead, sir. Let them know.
$15 trillion. E, the Great Economic Expansion of 1935 to 1965. Labor, education, and housing.
No, you glossing over that.
No,
labor and what now?
Okay, labor is $4.4 trillion.
Labor. Go ahead.
Education is $2 trillion.
Education, $2 trillion. Go ahead.
Housing, $1.75 trillion.
Remember, we couldn't go to the Ivy League colleges. We couldn't go to the same schools.
Right.
Our schools were decrepit because they lacked funding. Do you think if they're redlining and not giving money to our neighborhoods that they're giving funding to our schools?
Definitely not. Go
ahead, sir.
F, post-civil rights era, 1960 to the present.
So we free. Go ahead, brother.
6 decades of President Black-White employment gap.
Wait, you said six?
President. It's 6 decades of a persistent Black-White employment gap.
A persistent Black-White employment gap. In other words, we the last hired and the what now?
Fired.
Why do we say that? Why do we have a saying we the last hired and the first fired?
Right, because it's true.
Because it's true. Tell them what the numbers is, brother.
3.3 trillion.
Over 60 years. Go ahead, sir.
Missing intergenerational inheritance.
In other words, stuff you pass down to your kids, like the Bible said, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Put the numbers on it, brother.
$4.2 trillion.
All these is T's, trillion, not millions, not billions. Go ahead, man.
Continuing cost, $317 billion per year.
Per year. Go ahead.
Current cost of lost equity value, $20 billion per year. Current cost of 350,000 missing black teachers. $30 billion per year. Current lost income from black prison population.
In other words, the brothers that's locked up, their earning potential and their contribution to the nation is how much again, sir?
$30 billion.
30 billion. Just for being locked up, that is lost income. I never even conceived that a person being locked up, you can take their income and figure out, you can take the time they serve in jail and figure out an income value for it. This is a brother that went through this stuff. This research is impeccable.
Per year.
Everybody need to get this book. Go ahead, sir.
$8 billion per year. Persistent 6-decade black-white employment gap. $72 billion to $93 billion lost in 2005 to foreclosures from discriminatory subprime lending.
Remember that?
Yep.
2004 to 2018, everything crashed. TARP was passed. $785 billion went out to the banks to save the banks,
Right.
not you and me.
That's right.
How much did that cost us in housing?
$72 billion to $93 billion.
Y'all ain't hearing this. Go ahead.
$94 billion to $123 billion cost of workplace discrimination in 1970.
Workplace discrimination. Okay.
Go to page 89. Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been hurt.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what the solution is, don't you? Fear God keeps His commandments,
Remember.
right?
Yeah.
That's right.
But what else? Part 3 is going to cover what else. Because you can't pay your rent with a Bible verse. You got to have a balance between the spiritual and the material world. Go ahead, sir.
The 2% rule.
This is the 2% rule. This is going to kill you. Go ahead.
Research shows that black Americans were often restricted to 2% levels of or less in many vitally important aspects of the economy, politics, and society at large that facilitated wealth accumulation. Black Americans were emancipated but denied land, capital, credit, fair wages, means of production, skills development, and free trade, all of which were far below the 2% level. Black Americans held less than 2% of U.S. wealth for 350 years.
Please read that again, sir.
Black Americans held less than 2% of U.S. wealth for 350 years.
Stop.
Wow. Right.
Less
Right.
than 2% of the wealth of this country for 345 years.
Right.
We are devastated.
Right.
We are on the bottom. I am showing you out of reality, the reality that is inside the Bible. The Bible is real. The numbers are real. They can try to run from it, hide from it, or lie to you about it. But if somebody's trying to tell you that there is no systemic racism, hit them with the numbers. Go ahead, sir.
Black Americans owned less than 2% of all U.S. land for 400 years, currently 1%.
Let's repeat that one, please.
Black Americans owned less than 2% of all U.S. land for 400 years, currently 1%.
I ain't letting that stand. I ain't letting that stand. Trust me. Everybody around me is going to get it. Go ahead, bro.
Black Americans held less than 2% of almost all high-skilled, high-paying jobs in all industries for 150 years after emancipation.
Y'all ain't hearing me.
150 years
After emancipation. Go ahead, sir.
Black Americans received less than 2% of 246 million acres distributed to 1.5 million American families, actually less than 0.27%.
Please start and give them that fact again. That was the Homestead Act. I had the numbers flipped. I had the people instead of the number of acreage. Go ahead, sir.
Black Americans received less than 2% of 246 million acres.
So that's the guesstimate. Less than 2% is the guesstimate. Go ahead, sir.
Distributed to 1.5 million American families, actually less than 0.27%.
That is just, those are the numbers. Can't hide from them.
Keep going, man. You ain't getting away. You want me to read?
And there was more.
We'll read that then.
Okay, Black Americans received less than 2% of the $120 billion distributed to Americans via federal housing subsidized.
Remember FHA? Redlining? 100 and what now?
120 billion.
We missed out on not only did we miss out on $126 billion of homes we could have got, we lost $156 billion over the decades of discrimination. It never balances out. We're always at a negative because of disobedience, because of the curses. The curses are real. Go ahead, sir.
Black Americans, less than 2% of the adult black population was allowed to attain college degrees as of 1950.
That's it?
No.
Go ahead.
Today, Black Americans have unknowingly settled into a 2% equilibrium with their most vital financial enterprises. Black Americans spend less than 2% of their combined $1.2 trillion income on black enterprises.
We spend less than our 1.2, our little tiny little sliver that we got, we spend with other nations. He said he's going to get up very high, you're going to come down very low. You think the Lord is playing. If you think the curses ain't real, you tell me I'm lying. You tell me this is not real. Go ahead, sir.
Black Americans deposit less than 2% of their combined $130 billion of deposits in black banks.
For sure.
Black Americans spend less than 2% of their combined $1.2 trillion income on education.
Go to page 91. You ain't getting off the hook. You get tired, you let me read it. I'll read it. Imagine me putting this together, finding this stuff. I grew some dreadlocks. I had to cut them joints off. Oh, mighty job. Shoot.
Investment in business financing.
Investment in what now?
Business financing.
Come on.
Black-owned small businesses receive less than 2%, 1.7% of all loan money distributed through these SBA.
Stop. The SBA is a small business administration which is supposed to lend to small business owners if they have their stuff together. This just said that we receive less than 2%. And I got some news for you. The catchphrase being minority, I don't think you guys understand this. When it says they gave X amount of dollars to minority businesses and minority people, anyone, a minority is classified as anyone that is not a white man.
Right.
That's a minority. Minority don't mean black.
Right.
Minority means white women also.
Right.
So when they say minority, don't get it twisted. It's still less than 2%. Go ahead, sir.
Less than 2%. The number is actually 1.5% of total corporate procurement dollars are spent with black-owned businesses.
So Coca-Cola ain't giving a cripple crab a crutch when it's a black person that owns it. Go ahead, sir.
Less than 2% of tech companies with black founders receive venture capital funding.
So where is the black Facebook going to come from? That's wholly and majority owned by black people.
Right.
There's no VC capital for it. Right. Silicon Valley is not lending to black faces.
Right.
Y'all ain't hearing me. That's why the algorithm that Google made has an inherent bias against us because the people designing the algorithms don't look like us and they have implicit biases against us. Implicit bias is a bias that you don't fully know is aware. I'm sorry, you're not fully aware that it exists, but it exists nonetheless. Y'all ain't hearing me. We are messed up on all sides. Go ahead, sir.
Research conducted by Venrock Vice President Richard Kirby in 2015 found that black investors comprised less than 2% of the venture capital industry.
Come on, man. That it?
That's it.
All right. Well, okay, fine. That's America, right? That's just North America, right? That's what y'all can say, right? I didn't bring nothing else into the play. Maybe in South America it's better. Read this. In Latin America, same thing.
Let's see. This comes from the UN Chronicle.
Yeah, the United Nations Chronicle. You know, the UN, where all the nations of the planet go to and hold meetings about business around the world. This was the results of a study that the UN did on us in Latin America, and this is what they found. Go ahead, sir.
This comes from, well, the author is M.S. Morrison, who holds a master's degree in economic development and regional planning from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
This is an MIT trained professor. An MIT trained professor quantified the numbers and came up with this, how we're treated in Latin America as it relates to finances. Go ahead, sir.
Race and Poverty in Latin America.
Start there. You can give them the title of the
Race and Poverty in Latin America, Addressing the Development Needs of African Descendants.
So this is specifically about Israel in South America. Point blank period. Go ahead, sir.
In the country with the largest African descendant population in the hemisphere, Brazil, we know that if the white and black populations were classified separately, the Human Development Index of hypothetical Afro-Brazilian nations would rank 101, while an all-white nation would rank 46.
The higher the number, the worse the conditions. They're saying if they took Brazil's population and created two countries out of it, the human index would be higher for the Brazilian. In other words, worse for the Afro-Brazilians. Go ahead, sir.
The official HDA ranking for Brazil is 69, which is roughly the average of two racially divided Brazilian countries. The exclusion of the Afro-Brazilian harms development prospects for the nation as a whole.
The exclusion of black people in Brazil harms the nation as a whole. The development of the nation as a whole. Go ahead, sir.
An Inter-American Development report recently calculated that Brazil and other Latin American economies could expand by over 1/3 if people of color were fully included in the workforce of their nation.
In other words, if they had jobs, Brazil overall would benefit. But because they don't, go ahead, sir.
For example, blacks in Brazil are almost half the population, 48%, or 80 million based on their most recent official statistics.
80 million of us in Brazil. Go ahead, sir.
But their economic participation is only 20% of the GDP.
Stop. 80 million of us. Half. And our participation is 20%.
Wow.
20%. Go ahead, sir.
Unemployment is 50% higher among Afro-Brazilians than whites.
Stop.
Whoa.
Any different here?
Nope.
Go ahead.
And blacks who are employed earn less than half of what whites earn.
Stop. Any different here?
No.
Curses will follow you and overtake you no matter where you are. Go ahead.
The majority of Afro-Brazilians, 78%, live below the poverty line compared to 40% of whites. Colombia has the second largest African descendant population in the region. Afro-Colombians make up about 26% of the entire population, but represent well over 75% of the poor and earn 34% less than their non-black counterparts.
We're getting smashed on in Brazil. We're getting smashed on in South America. It's not a game. If you think the curses ain't real, if Ben Shapiro will one up on you and tell you that there's no such thing as systemic racism, or Jordan Peterson want to play with you, hit them with the facts. Ask them this question. Anyone trying to tell you there's no such thing as white privilege or systemic racism, ask them to give you one name of one black author that signed the Constitution of the United States. There are no black architects of the Constitution. I'm not mad at that fact. I understand it, but I'm saying for anyone to say there's no such thing as quote-unquote white privilege, when the whole entire governing document of this country was constructed by people that were not me,
Right.
they're either stupid or they're plain.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
Lack of access to jobs.
Lack of access to what?
Access to jobs.
Come on.
And lower wages are problems facing African descendants throughout the Latin American region. The gap between the races has broad development consequences, particularly in large nations like Brazil and Colombia. Afro descendants have not benefited from development improvements, and the gap stifles development for those nations as a whole.
So we're not doing no better in South America, huh? So in North America, we doing bad financially. South America, we doing bad financially. What about Europe, right? What about Europe? Show them what's cracking in Europe. Y'all ain't hearing me. I told you I go 4 to 5 to 6 ripples out. Go ahead, sir.
Europeans of African descent, black Europeans, race, rights, and politics. This is Tuesday, November 19th, 2013. I guess the source is Durskin Senate Office Building, Washington, D.C.
So basically they had some representatives of cabinet, some cabinet representatives of some black cabinet members from different European countries come over to Washington, and these are the minutes from that meeting. And they came over here to figure out this. Go ahead, sir. Yep.
Racist acts targeting black cabinet-level officials in Italy and France have put a spotlight on the experiences of the 7 to 10 million people of African descent in Europe.
Stop. We're talking cabinet members. We're not talking we ain't talking about regular Tyrone and regular Shanika. We're talking about cabinet members, right? People that are highly educated and are supposed to be doing service to their people. And they're getting treated like garbage. 7 million of them. 7 million, they say to put the spotlight on the 7 to 10 million of us that's in Europe right now. Y'all ain't hearing me. The curses are real. This is just the financial part. Go ahead, sir.
A visible minority in Europe, often unacknowledged despite a centuries-long presence in Europe, black Europeans have increasingly become the target of discrimination, pernicious racial profiling, and violent hate crimes impacting equal access to housing, employment, education, and justice.
Same thing, right? Housing, education, justice. Housing, education, justice. These are the foundations of a person's life.
Right.
This is Maslow's hierarchy. These are the bottom 2 levels of Maslow's hierarchy that we must have. In order to feel like a human being, you must accomplish the first 2 levels of Maslow's hierarchy. That's a psychological term. I covered that in another lesson. Go ahead, sir.
Europe today grapples with the complex intersection of national identity, decreasing birth rates, increasing immigration, security concerns, and a rise in extremist political parties and vigilantism. In this context, the experiences of black Europeans increasingly serve as a measure of the strength of European democracies and commitments to human rights. The briefing discussed the work of black European rights organizations and the efforts of the international community to address issues of inequality, discrimination, and inclusion for black Europeans, in addition to discussing similarities and work with African American civil rights organizations.
My question is, obviously we ain't figured it out. Why they coming from Europe asking us how to make their situation better?
Right.
Read this last handout. Here's where we are right now, 2019. Hit them with it, brother.
Blacks will take hundreds of years to catch up to white wealth.
Please read that again. They ain't hearing you.
Blacks will take hundreds of years to catch up to white wealth. This source comes from money.cnn.com.
You know CNN, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
The wealth gap between blacks and whites in America will take hundreds of years to close, if ever. If current trends persist, it will take 228 years.
Stop.
228 years.
228 years. If what's going on right now does not stop, does not change, it will take 228 years to catch up. We was in slavery for 245 years. We've been free for 155 years. Only 55 years ago, we could drink from the same water fountain and attend the same school. It will take 228 years starting now to catch up. So let me ask you a question. Are we ever going to catch up?
No.
The curses is real. That's the cost of disobedience. Go ahead, sir.
It will take 228 years for black families to accumulate the same amount of wealth as whites, according to a report released this week from the Corporation for Economic Development and Institute for Policy Studies. For Latino families,
So for my Latin brothers, go ahead.
for Latino families, it will take 84 years.
Ain't that bad? Y'all got to run a head start, Jack. Go ahead.
Over the past 30 years,
How long?
over the past 30 years,
Come on.
the average household wealth of white families has grown 85% to $656,000.
Give us that number again.
From 85% to 6. Yes, it's hard to comprehend.
What's more?
Over the past 30 years, the average household wealth of white families has grown 85%.
Over the past 30 years, their wealth keeps growing at a rate of 85% to a total of how many assets, sir?
$656,000.
On average, they're probably including the home, they're probably including credit cards and savings and 401s, etc. 600 and what now?
656,000.
In part 3, I'm going to show you how we can catch up. I'm going to show you in part 3 how we can get $600-something thousand.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
While that of blacks has climbed just 27% to $85,000.
85,000 versus 600,000.
That's about right.
Go ahead, sir.
And Latinos, 69% to $98,000.
98,000, 10,000 more, hooray! That's it. Now, question. We on the bottom?
Yes.
Are the curses real?
Yes.
Is there a cost of disobedience?
Yes.
What's the solution?
Fear God, keep it in mind.
Keep disobeying.
Deuteronomy 30. Show you all the solution. Show you all the solution, then we can go eat some gourmet sandwiches. Last scripture. I know it's a lot. I know y'all feel like I threw a telephone book at you. I'm sorry, but that's how I get down. Very thorough. Deuteronomy 30, the Lord ain't playing. This is the solution. We need a miracle to save us, and the miracle is God. His redemption is in our hands. And this is what we got to do. Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 4. Go ahead, brother.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee.
First step, go ahead.
And shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day.
Second step, go ahead.
Thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee.
Come on.
If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee.
So I'm saying to y'all, until then, what do? Do we just sit up and just be broke and be impoverished and just make excuses for it, or do we try to figure out how to make our lives better?
Figure it out.
That's part 3. In conclusion, read your Bible, pray for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, keep the commandments, and keep yourself from sin. And that's it.